one of the most exciting cities in the tri-state area, it's Late Night with David Letterman. Tonight, Dick Cavett, Gizmo scholar Howard Smith, Cutman Al Braverman, and a look at mail order items. And now, a man who's in the studio illegally, David Letterman.
Thank you. Come on now. Someone's going to get hurt here if you're not careful. Good morning, welcome to the show. My name is David Letterman. What a beautiful day in New York City today, huh? It reminded me of the time I came up here on vacation. I was living in Orlando at the time, and boy, what a... You folks are easily entertained, and boy, did you come to the right place. Welcome to the show, and what a show we've got for you. Quickly, last night, as I do after most of these shows, the guests and myself go out and we have a little fun. Last night, there was a guy who owns a potato museum. He and I went out for a couple of beers. I heard the stupidest, I'm assuming this was intended to be a snappy pickup line, a guy trying to pick up a girl in a bar. The stupidest line I've ever heard in my entire life. The guy says to the woman, I can name all three of the Hudson brothers. Before we continue, I have to tell you something. I have an artificial tooth that goes right in here. I have forgotten it, and it's thrown... It's thrown my whole balance out of whack. Do you mind if I go get the tooth and the glue? This will take me 90 seconds tops, but we're going to have somebody stand in here for just a minute. Ma'am, you holding the tulip. Could you come down here? What is your name, ma'am? How do you do?
How do you do, sir?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And your name was?
Rosemary Bailey.
Rosemary Bailey, where are you from?
Warsaw, New York.
Warsaw, no, you're not with the college guys from New Jersey.
Oh, I'd like to be.
Wait a minute, Rosemary. Have you ever done a TV show before?
No.
Neither have I. Gentleman right here, Kevin, come on out. This is our cue card man, Kevin. Rosemary, all you have to do is read these cards. I'm serious, 2 minutes tops. I'll be right back. Hal, this is Rosemary Bailey. This is Hal, our director.
Hi, Rosemary.
There you go, Rosemary. I'll be back. I'll be back. Seriously, I'll be right back.
Okay, hit the mark, Rosemary.
Good luck, Rosemary.
Just take a step back. Yeah, okay. Start reading the card.
Hi, how are you all this evening? Do you like my haircut? I think it makes me look like a duck. Hello, and welcome to today's show. And now let's go to Willard Scott with the weather.
No, that's the wrong card, Rosemary. Wait a minute.
Well, last weekend was the night of 100 stars here in New York. I was invited to participate, so I got in to get in free. Anyway, after the show, I'm leaving with my girlfriend.
Wait, Rosemary, hold on. Just go down to the punchline.
Minding my own business when this lady comes running up to me, begging for my autograph. She didn't have a pen, she didn't have any paper, and she's making a big scene, so I finally said to her, look, just because you're Liz Taylor doesn't give you the right to intrude on my evening.
Go sit down at the desk. Or the other way, go ahead. Read whatever's in front of you there. Go ahead.
Corrections? Because of a computer error at the Hayden Planetarium, the Almanac section of the weather forecast and records from February 1st through February 8th listed incorrect times for the rising and setting of Mars. And the correct times will be found today on page D8.
Okay, to the camera, the one with the light on, Rosemary. One
Pardon
to
me?
the right, to your right.
Oh,
There you are.
I can't tell light from red.
Lean into the microphone, talk right into the microphone.
Yes.
Okay, so let's get into a commercial.
All right.
Okay, go ahead.
We'll be back with Dick Cavett.
Terrific.
For the past year, 5 years, he's had his own interview show with public broadcasting. Would you welcome him, Dick Cavett? Dick.
David.
David.
Just ask the first question.
What is this? I have a feeling I've missed something
You
back there.
have been doing talk shows longer than I have, Dick. What are the rules on what makes a good interview?
Did you know they kept me in an isolation booth backstage for this surprise? Well, let me first say, David, I don't know why 8 out of 10 critics have said you're effeminate, because I don't see it at all. And I think it's admirable the way you've borne up. What was the question, please?
Again?
Yes, something about talk
You
shows.
have been doing talk shows longer than I have.
Yes.
Believe me.
How do you manage to make it sound like you're reading that?
Because I am.
Rosemary, I'm back. I'm
Oh,
off.
sorry, we're doing a show out here.
We have to, very nice job, Rosemary. I
Thank
certainly appreciate
you.
that. Thank you for your help.
Tried to joke me.
You did a very nice job. I'm always, whenever that sort of thing transpires, I'm always not amazed necessarily, but impressed by her composure.
I am too, but you know, she goes from show to show and does this all the time. She certainly fooled
Did a
you.
very nice job. And Rosemary, we have nothing for you. I'm sorry. Maybe Dick has a little something for you. Thank you
Yes.
very much. That was darn nice of her. Welcome to the show, Mr. Cavett. How are you?
Oh gosh, you can call me Mr. Dick because
Mr. Dick.
I'm not. I mean, the age gap between us is certainly not the same as
What would
between
you-
Carson and myself,
what
for
would-
example. Or
What would you adjudge the age gap to be?
Gee, you know, I don't really know. By the way, is it insensitive to use the word gap around you? I don't know, you know.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're almost out of time, Dick.
Amazing how it flies, isn't it?
Uh,
No, you see, I don't know your. I realize I don't know your age. I know you're well over 20.
well, you know my weight, and that's all that really counts in the
Yep.
business that we're in.
Yeah, I guessed it once at the state fair years ago. We go way back together. But you astounded me by telling me that you wrote me a letter one time.
Long time ago, I had when I was working at a local television station. I'm not sure how interesting this is to anyone out there, or even to us, as I tell it now. But
We can judge from the reaction.
yeah. I wrote you a letter inquiring as to how a guy like myself could get into big-time broadcasting, and you were kind enough to write back and say, you know, get a cab, pal.
Yeah.
No, it was actually a very nice letter, and that I was so impressed by that I now also try to do likewise when, although I don't get many letters like that.
Did I send you the Dear David Letterman form letter?
I think
that
it was, yes,
I
a serial
used
number
to-
08, it was what I got.
Well, it scared me when you started to say it because I thought you were, of course, going to say, and you never answered, but of course I understand, and so on. But apparently I did. I'd love to look back through my files now and see if I could find that letter.
I have it somewhere, but it's been shuffled around with other mementos and probably gone now.
Really? I saved all your letters.
I've been a very big fan of yours, and I loved your book, and we have many things to cover here this evening.
That's right.
Not the least of which is the event of the weekend past. Suddenly, I'm waxing poetic, aren't I?
Yeah, I hadn't noticed.
And I'm referring, you tell them what I'm talking about, and we'll get into that in a minute here.
Yeah, David is referring undoubtedly to the Night of 100 Stars, a phrase everyone must be very familiar with by this time. And we were both lucky enough, I guess you'd say, to be there. I don't want to appear too jaded, but I thought it was pretty much like any other Night of 100 Stars.
Yeah, it was.
That I've been to.
I think doing them twice weekly has kind of taken the edge off of them.
It was astounding. It was like, I don't mean this in an insulting way to any of the people there, like a trip to the Wax Museum. I mean, no, I mean that because if you've been to Madame Tussauds, you know how incredibly lifelike and vigorous all the people looking.
Yeah.
It was really fun. I did see something with my own eyes that was wonderful. Betty Davis was standing there with that wonderful way she can plant herself so you feel like two strong men couldn't lift her off the ground. She's just standing there. And a lady approached from her right side and said, "Hello." And she turned and said, "Hello." And she said, "How are you?" And Miss Davis said, "I'm all right." And the lady said, "It's me." And Miss Davis said, "Yes." "Liz." "Uh-huh." "Liz Taylor." And it was Liz Taylor.
Right.
There were 100 funny things happening backstage tonight.
And we'll get back to cover some more of those right after this. Good morning and welcome back to the show, as we like to call it. So we do. This is, of course, Mr. Dick Cavett. And coming up later in the show, we have Cutman Al Braverman and a movie maker whom you know, Howard Smith, put together a film a couple of years ago called Gizmo. He'll be here with some of that video for us.
I suppose when they come out, I move down and then on
You can move
down.
anywhere you like. You can go up there and sit with Rosemary if you're a mind to. I would love to go on talking about Night of 100 Stars, but let's move on and maybe we can come back to it. Yeah, anyway, when I first knew you, or knew of you, I started reading everything I could about you, and you. There was this wonderful story in Time magazine about how you were hired as from a copy boy to the Jack Parr staff.
Yes, and it was true. It sounds improbable, but it happened about 28 feet from here, I would think, outside that door.
I think there's a plaque there now.
Yeah. and they spelled one of our names right. By the way, Jack Parr's star is spelled wrong, one of the many misspellings on the Avenue of Stars, you know, in Hollywood, with the double R. But I was a copy boy over there. I shouldn't tell this story, and you'll see why.
Okay.
If you know it already. And I saw in a column, Jack Parr worries more about his monologue than the whole rest of the show. So I thought, that's strange. I got about an hour or two. Why don't I write a Jack Parr monologue just to see what it's like? And if it turns out all right, I'll take it to him. I did. I put it in a Time envelope, thinking that might impress him, whereas they might throw me out otherwise. And I got in the underground from the Time Life building over there into this place, came through the turnstile. And I remember thinking, it's the only time in my life I've thought this is a turning point, perhaps, in my life. Upward or downward, I wasn't sure which, but a turning point. And I came out, and with the luck that you only have in a bad script, I ran into Jack like that, getting off the elevator, and I said I rewrote, came out like rewrote, a monologue for you. And he looked at me very suspiciously and sort of said, okay. And then he said, oh, Time. And I didn't want to say I'm a copy boy at Time, because to be on the custodial staff has more prestige than to be a copy boy. And so I said, yes, I'm with Time. And he took it in his room, and then I heard him saying to his secretary, Mitsumi Travers, is this funny? And he read out a couple lines, and fortunately she laughed. Bless her. And I saw him in the elevator afterwards, contrived again. They'd be in the same elevator with him. And he said, you ought to do that again, pal. I mean, that was so...
Yeah.
To make a long story even more tedious than it's likely to get. I did, and I got a job with Jack writing many, many jokes.
Was he fun to be around? That must have been a very exciting show.
He was, and he was scary to be around because he has a nervous intensity that was half of his great charm and intrigue on camera, what Kenneth Tynan called that sense of danger in Parr that made you think you might see a breakdown on camera of some sort or didn't know what was going to happen next. And so I always had butterflies because I admired him so much and didn't want to disappoint him, you know, I'm sure as your writers feel.
I haven't gotten any sense of that yet.
Well, at least have butterflies. Whether they're their own or not, I don't know. But it was exciting. And, of course, there I was within grasping distance of all these legends that would appear on the Parr Show. And first time we went to California, and there was Skelton and Hope and everybody I'd ever dreamed of being anywhere near. Yeah. There they were.
We're going to find out more about there they were and who they were and why they were there, as a matter of fact, and other non-pertinent information we have to pause. We'll be right back. Dick Clark. And we're getting ready to rate a record, so Dick Clark.
This is not the first time this has happened.
You know
to
why
me,
that
by
happened?
the way.
Because you leaned over to me and made a reference to the ball, and I can remember this is the night of the 100 Stars seeing Dick Clark.
And there was Dick Clark.
Dick
yeah,
Clark was,
it happens all the time.
I'm awfully sorry.
Now, I know how you feel, Bill, because you're probably very worried that...
There's, I got 90 different things here I want to ask you about. I think what I'm going to do here is tell me about your early days as a stand-up and how you met Mr. Allen, right in there. Anything
I
there?
have nothing to tell you about either one of those things.
Okay. How did you vote in the last election?
But seriously, now did you didn't have to go through that, did you? You didn't have to. You
I
didn't
did,
go
yeah.
to. I mean, in New York in the Greenwich.
No, I did it in
Village,
Los
Greenwich
Angeles,
Village
yeah.
and that kind of thing, where you went to the bitter end and then the village gate, and if between those two they'd let you go on at the Candle House or whatever you do your thing there. But years ago, I went through that because I had seen Woody Allen go through it, and I thought that inspired me, and so I thought I'd go down and do that. And it was murder. I remember my first night at the bitter end. I can remember the sensation of sweat. I believe it's called flop sweat in our business, damming up over my eyebrows as I delivered what I thought was my comedy act. And occasionally it would, the surface tension would break and it would come down and there'd be a saline solution in my eye. And I went on. One lady found it very moving, she said afterwards, and somebody said, "Congratulate the young man who lectured." I have never forgotten that.
People who don't know it, and there's no reason that they should know it, it is the worst embarrassment a human can suffer, I think.
I know, if there were only a way around it, if only you could think, I'm going to go out there and hope I bomb, and try to see the humor in it,
Yeah.
because what person in his right mind would force himself on a group of people into the most brightly lighted part of the room,
Drunks,
and
usually.
presume to amuse them, in their inebriated state. I was very good at ad-libs. I loved that. I got into an ad-lib session with a lady went on for about 15 minutes one night at the Bonsoir, because, they yell out, things like, "You're not funny." Right.
Subtleties.
And then, I'd seen that happen to Noel Coward once, and he came right back with, "Up yours, Baldy." And, it was really...
It's very nice.
So I wrote that down.
Yeah, kind of a capper there. I really appreciate you coming here tonight. It was a pleasure meeting and talking with you.
Well, let me just say seriously that this is the most fun I've ever had on your show.
Well, good. Dick Cavett, we have to pause here for station identification. Howard Smith from Gizmo and Cutman Al Braverman will be here. Thank you very much, Paul Schaefer. Welcome back to the show. And in the next half hour, we have Cutman Al Braverman and Howard Smith with some wonderful film. Have you ever leafed through those cheap gift catalogs or taken a look at the sleazy ads in the backs of magazines and said to yourself, "My gosh, who sends for this crap?" Well, we do, And we're not ashamed to admit it. And we have here now an assortment of actual items from these actual gift catalogs. And keep in mind that this stuff is for real. It can be purchased. This first one from the ever-changing world of medicine. This is the Digitemp forehead thermometer. For people on the go who don't have the 3 minutes it takes to use a regular thermometer. And this is what you get right here. There you are. And you, like this. Now, is it lighting up? What do we got? 90, how much? 92. That's the temperature at which most doctors agree it's time to close the box. I think it's 92, yes. About time for my checkup. Now, this one is engraved chewing gum case. Keeps a pack of your favorite gum soft and fresh no matter how long you tote it. And we've had it engraved. There it is. This baby goes for $7. It's a good way to impress girls. Hey, baby, want some Beemans? Let's see what else we have. Oh, this is falling out. This is a. This is called the. Oh, this is the Amazing Space Pet. You know it's going to be good. Doesn't have to be fed, watered, walked, and still does tricks that would put Rover to shame. Made of rigid polystyrene. Okay, this is the Amazing Space Pet. There you go. Let's see. Tap me and I will spin. Well, thank heavens it's rigid polystyrene, because this is the kind of thing you're going to wear out in a couple of days with hours of fun for the whole family. Apparently it magnifies. Well, that's something the family dog can't do. Okay, that's, oh, this one, I'm mad about this one. I'll be getting one. This is it's called the Little Facial Gym. Maybe you've seen your doctor use something similar. Are you willing to spend just 12 minutes a week to help erase eye puffiness, smile lines, saggy chin, and loose neck muscles? By golly, I know I am. This thing is $5, okay? And here, of course, the ad right there. And the little diagram answers the question, do you have to be smart to use it? No. Let's demonstrate this. Well, the hard part is getting, there you go. See? Like that, eh? Sure, you're laughing, but the Russians don't have one of these yet, so. We have one more here. Now, this one is, to me, a fine one. It's labeled here, just for kids. What this is, edible stationery. Read it and eat it. I've done that here a couple of nights already. Tastes delicious, amuse friends, and then it has the various flavors of this stuff. And, of course, it's just for kids. And, by the way, this is the kind of thing you want your kid doing, huh? Hungry, Billy? How about some index cards? Okay, here is the edible stationery. Could be a two-parter, folks. Here, well, this was a... Oh! High-quality bond. Now, I can eat this, right? Just eat it a little? Well, it's got this ink on it. I'll be dead in a couple of weeks. That's just perfect. It's, you betcha. Well, we'll be right back with Howard Smith. to the show. Howard Smith is a filmmaker and a columnist with the Village Voice here in New York City. He won an Academy Award a few years ago for his film entitled Marjo. In 1980, he won a critical acclaim for his film Gizmo. Now, Gizmo, if you're not familiar with this, was a collection of vintage film footage of inventors and ordinary people attempting maniacal feats for the sake of fame and fortune. If you have not seen this stuff before, you're in for quite a treat this evening. Please welcome Howard Smith. Howard, nice to meet you, sir. The film Gizmo, 1980, I guess, is when it came out. Mm-hmm. And for people who have not heard of it, what was the premise of the movie?
Well, I wanted to show all kinds of different inventions. I made the movie primarily for laughs, to show that it could also be a very funny experience being an inventor, which I had been myself as a teenager, which is, I guess, where I got the idea originally for the film.
What did you invent? Anything of note?
No, I never sold anything, but the advantage of being like 13, 14 years old and having inventions is you can get to see the president of any large corporation. When they hear that it's you on the phone who's 13 years old, they're perfectly willing to see you.
Because that's the market they're looking for generally, huh?
Yeah, and they're amazed. They can't believe that somebody that age has an invention.
Now, you assembled these into a feature film, and we're going to, I guess, take a look at the first group of them, which would be inventions that never really worked, like edible paper.
Most inventions don't work.
Most of them don't?
Most don't. I mean, I had 22 researchers working on this film for 3 years all over the world. So I've looked at thousands of inventions.
Okay. And this is a sampling of inventions that just never really worked. Take a look from Gizmo.
As you may see here, this is a talking clock, one of the latest inventions. This clock will talk out the time every hour on the hour to appropriate to the time of the day and night. This is the speaker. Down here you may see the synchronized record that we're using into this mechanism. Of course, the speaking of this you will hear through this here speaker here. 10 o'clock, Mother. Go to market.
This is a special kind of chest gun from France. Shooting bullets from his chest.
It wouldn't pose such a serious threat to store owners if they were wearing a chest and wristband device like this. Money bag conceals blank cartridges and tear gas. A fine wire loop slips over the messenger's finger. When the wire is pulled, the bag locks automatically and sends gas through the holes.
I can't tell you how many spaghetti forks I saw.
A lot of those, huh?
Every single country, everybody's trying to invent a better way to eat spaghetti.
Yeah. Now, the stuff we saw there seemed to be, it's not current. It's 10, 20, 30 years old, perhaps. Are you under the impression that people are still doing this kind of thing, or was that a phase or a fad at one point to invent odd things and document it like that?
Well, the world has gotten so technological today that it seems it's primarily being done by research and development sections of large corporations. The backyard inventor seems to have gone away somewhat, but not completely. I happen to think that's part of one of the problems, maybe, with the economy in general, the idea that it's lawyers and accountants running it rather than an entrepreneur inventor who's running things.
All right, you have another section of the film. This deals essentially with people and things they do with their bodies.
Yeah, it's a form of an invention. It's like reinventing the human body.
Okay. And again, it's pretty much self-explanatory.
In the month of February, I was coming home from school, and my hands got very cold, and you see, I had no mittens. And I began, of course, pressing them together to get them warm, and that wouldn't do. Well, pretty soon I began squeezing them, and I was surprised to think that I could make a few different sounds. Well, then I began playing every day, and pretty soon I could play Yankee Doodle clear through. And that was the only tune I could play for 3 whole years. And the next tune I could play was Marching Through Georgia, then The Trail of the Lonesome Pine. I was in my backyard entertaining a friend with my hands. I, at that time, evolved an instrument that would play much faster. And as time went on, I improved it, and this is the result. I will now play Dixie.
How'd you like to be on a long bus ride with this guy, huh? Yankee Doodle for 3 years.
I saw footage of him that lasted a very long time.
Did you ever meet any of these people in person?
No, I didn't. No.
Yeah, it's fascinating. We're going to pause here and then return to take a look at some more of the Gizmo.
Transportation for some of Dave's guests provided by Melman Coach Lines. If you need reliability, comfort, and safety, stay at home. If you want to ride on a bus, ride Melman. Melman Coach Lines. We stop at most corners.
Hi there. Welcome back to the show. Howard Smith is here, and we're looking at some footage from the film Gizmo. So the film is essentially an hour of the kind of thing we have seen. Did you...
No, it's close to an hour and a half.
Hour and a half? In assembling this stuff, do you ever come across any footage where... We saw the guy with a cannonball. Like, had somebody been injured in a film clip, would you have included it in the film? Like, if that guy, if it had bounced off his forehead, would he have made the final cut?
Since I didn't go for a serious mood in the whole film, when I did find... And there is plenty out there of people who were hurt, especially in the flying area.
Mm-hmm.
Plenty of footage of people who went up in a plane. You see them fall right out of the plane.
Mm-hmm.
In the early days of flying, everybody thought it would be very easy, especially if you made yourself look like a bird.
Yeah.
People felt you could go off anything and you'd fly, and they died.
So that's...
And so
yeah.
I tended to leave that out.
Yeah, that's...
I found through having many screenings while I was editing the movie in front of live audiences that there wouldn't be any laughter in the theater for about 15 or 20 minutes after someone died.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that takes the fun out of it, I guess. It's interesting to me that these people are serious enough about what they do to go to the trouble to have it documented. Did you have any trouble sorting out the fakes from the real guys?
No, after a while, since I looked at thousands of pieces of it, I could pretty well tell that. But there's something about the way all these people presented themselves that's fascinating. Because after working for 2 or 3 years, let's say in a garage, using all the money they and their families have, they would then be ready to present this to the world. Mm-hmm. So, of course, they would make these grandiose statements about, I mean, a standard line almost always with these inventors is, this is going to change the world. I would probably say that's number one of the three biggest lies of inventors.
Yeah. You fill us in on the other two?
I will make $1 million from this, and this absolutely cannot fail.
That's interesting. Of the assembled stuff, did any of them have any impact on modern man as we
Well, a lot
know
of the
him?
flying footage certainly did. I have a very long section in the movie where I found some very obscure pieces of flying footage, and that especially shows that in order to succeed, there have to be failures. There have to be all of those trials and tests and people, you know, not being able to quite do it, and then other people learn from that step. Although there are some people that are just hopeless failures. You know, if they invented a way, to make men's pants that would never wear out, men would start wearing dresses the next day. I mean, there's just no way they're going to succeed.
So the smart guys kind of sit back for a couple of decades, let the jerks do all the dirty work, and then they take notes on what works and put it together, and they get the credit.
Something like that.
Yeah. You mentioned man's quest to fly, and we have that now here. This is a segment from the film dealing with early attempts, I guess early, huh, at flight? Okay.
The laws by which these wings are manipulated are the old laws of Greek cosmic motion, which I have rediscovered. And it's my strong conviction that by utilizing these inner universal forces, we shall all be able to fly like the birds. And I am now starting a school to train the children to develop these powers while they are young. Now, Max, come over and put this in here.
All right, I get it.
And get back and tight it up. That's right. Not too tight. No. Not too tight. Go ahead.
All right, back there?
Yes. That's it. Tight now.
Okay.
Fine. Now we're off. We ought to wait till the wind catches. All right, go. Come on. Now, Al, spread your wings. Now, just head forward. Lift your feet.
And here I am. You can look this device over. It appears heavy. It's light. This is the first American rocket airplane flight. It is being staged to demonstrate the practicability and feasibility of transporting mail and other merchandise by rocket airplanes. This particular plane will take off from Greenwood Lake, New York to Jewett, New Jersey, and will carry 6,127 pieces of mail.
I think the last one is the method that the post office finally came up with, and they said, we'll go with this one. That's the one they're using today. These people look like they're nuts. I mean, they're when they stand there and tell you what they're doing, are they a little... is somebody else driving, as we say?
Well, for instance, this last piece of footage, that was a very serious rocket researcher who did go on to make great contributions to Americans' rocket effort. But at the beginning, he thought its main use would be for mail, and that was a failed demonstration of it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
But years later, he was actually one of the key scientists that helped us.
What didn't we get to take a look at tonight that you found to be of particular interest in the film?
Well, with the energy shortage, Now, there was a dog-powered washing machine that I thought is almost ready for marketing now. And it shows a huge wheel that you put the German Shepherd inside of an exercise wheel, like mice run around in, except this is a big one. And there's all kinds of belt drives and gears from it connected to a washing machine. And the dog gets his exercise while you wash the clothes.
Yeah. Did you come across a lot of duplication in researching this? Or I mean, were there 17 elbow expanders or 19 mouth exercisers?
Well, the spaghetti forks, definitely. I found those all over the place. And rocket-launched lifeboats. I found many inventors in lots of countries invented that idea.
What would be the application of that?
Well, in case the boat was going down, everybody would jump into the lifeboat and be shot off of the ocean line. And then that would land in the water. And there was a very famous demonstration of it at the Battery right here in Manhattan, and the thing turns over several times.
So it actually doubles your chances of getting killed.
That's right.
Great. A wonderful idea. Howard Smith, a wonderful film. It's called Gizmo. Thank you very much, Howard. Okay. We have to call. Thank you, sir. I want to thank our studio audience. You folks were terrific. Also, a special thanks to Rosemary Bailey. Rosemary, thank you very much. Tomorrow, you're not going to believe it, Small Town News, Mr. Rogers, Andy Kaufman, and Julie Andrews. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night.
This has been a Melnor production.
Melman.
Melman production.